In section 6, we're going to go back again to ASM model. As you might remember, it had just different layers. We had microsystem, mesosystem, exosystem, and macrosystem. Each of these layers, they do have different definitions. You have to go back and check the chapter or your notes to just remember them. But the key point here is, again, we can see school in just different ways, right? Especially here in mesosystem, we can see a lot of interaction between the schools and home, between the schools and neighborhood and work, like everything. So school is just so important. And the key for that is just because the child actually learn a lot of interaction with both peers and also teachers. The child actually needs a lot of support from their family. As you might remember, we talked about this, but family's relationship and support is just very important. The way mom and dad gonna interact with teacher, the way mom and dad gonna support the child in different ways. Like parents, they shouldn't have a lot of expectations from their child, which is, I guess, impossible, honestly, because like parents always just want to have the perfect child for themselves, but they shouldn't be like that because it's going to be a lot of pressure for kids. So yeah. But another point about school is just considering the importance of culture. And based on the importance of culture, we have cultural compatibility hypothesis, which means like classroom instruction must be based on each student's culture. I know that it sounds impossible because, for example, every time, at least in my classes, we have students from different cultures, and even my culture is just different from my students. So it can be hard to just adjust everything and make it like compatible. But the key here is you have to just consider everybody's perspective and reach to a specific point that could actually be good for almost everyone. For example, I remember that I read a study, it was about hesitation after asking a question. For example, every time I was asking a question from my students, I'll give them, for example, like 10 seconds. There are some cultures that they need more time to answer your questions because it's gonna be as a sign of respect to their teacher. There are another culture, like Hawaiian culture. They actually don't like to wait a lot, like to have a lot of time, like 10 seconds after asking a question. They prefer to just answer the question right away. So if, for example, I would have a Hawaiian student and, for example, an Indian student in my class or Asian students in my class, which gonna like respect more. I mean, I don't mean like Hawaiian student, they are disrespectful, but I guess you got the point. But I have to just come to a specific time point, like 6 seconds or something like that, to just cover everyone in my class. And this is the idea of cultural compatibility hypothesis, which means you have to consider every possible culture and cultural differences in your class. And this way you can just teach better and be more effective for students. Grouping. It is actually very controversial because like we do have grouping in everywhere, almost every school. But the point is there are gonna be two ways of grouping. They're gonna be between class grouping and within class grouping. What is between class? For example, you're gonna conduct a test and you're gonna put like high capable students in one classroom, low capable students in another classroom, and gonna separate them. So for example, I would be responsible for high academic abilities, and another teacher gonna be responsible for lower academic abilities of students, if that makes sense. There's gonna be another way of grouping within class grouping, which means like you're gonna actually have all the students in one classroom. Some of them might be high, some of them might be lower than the average number, but you're gonna teach in the same way to everyone, But again, you have to just reach to a specific point. Like you shouldn't be that much advanced, you shouldn't be that much low in your teaching style. I honestly prefer like the second one within class grouping. I feel like it's just better. Because like I feel like the students, they just should mingle and just be together and just communicate, whether they are just lower or higher, because I mean it doesn't matter much. I don't like between class abilities, like separating them totally. I feel like it's not that much effective. Another idea here is just gender influence in classroom. Normally in the United States, we do have co-ed classrooms, which means like we have females and males in the same class. In general, it seems like boys, they are receiving more attention. They are actually being more called on, like the teacher gonna just call their name more. This is actually so true in my classes, because like in psychology majors, we don't have like that much boys in a classroom. I always just for example, in-person classes, I always have like maybe 5 or 7 boys. So I always just call them, which is not really good because probably they do have anxiety in my classes. But another point about gender differences is girls, they're gonna ask more factual questions. And literally, I can see that a lot in my classes, both online and in person. Like they literally just asking some questions, which is so factual rather than conceptual. So this is like gender differences about boys and girls. We actually don't know whether a single gender classroom might be better or not. All we know for now is just all about co-ed classrooms, and it seems like boys are better in science and mathematical skills. There are going to be, again, some parental expectations here. Again, parents just want their children to be the best. And also, they actually feel like their boys, their sons, actually, they're going to be more advanced in science and mathematical perspectives, which I don't agree. I feel like they are just similar. This is just our expectation, which actually make one gender better than the other. But I respect your idea as well. So let's talk about children with disabilities or children with special needs. So there are going to be a lot of controversies about children with special needs. Check your textbook. This part is very important. There are going to be, like, again, different controversies here and there. Some people, they believe that we have to do mainstreaming, like putting children with special needs to the same class as children without special needs, like typically developed children. It seems like if we would do that for children who like don't have that much severe disabilities, it might work. For example, it can bring actually higher academic performance, it can bring better attitudes towards the school, and it can actually enhance children with mild special needs social skills better. However, there might be some problems with that. We always have some mean students in the classroom. They might not be really respectful toward the students with learning disabilities or mild special needs. So those students might actually discourage children with special needs. So we have to consider the downsides as well. But in general, it seems like it is good to put students with special needs, mild or medium special needs, with students who are typically developed. There is a point here. If we would have a student with severe learning disabilities or any sort of disabilities, this is not really effective to just put them together as like normally developed children. So it is good, inclusion is good, mainstreaming is good for mild and moderate disabilities. What if we had severe disabilities? In those cases, we should separate them, first of all, or if we want to do mainstreaming, we shouldn't do inclusion. Okay, mainstreaming is not equal as inclusion. They are kind of different. We should consider that. So a good answer for that is mainstreaming is good for children with special needs. But inclusion might not be the best idea. We should actually consider the level of disabilities as well.